Yeah.
So annoying.
Good to me.
Like, come on.
Oh my goodness.
Like we're just fish in a bowl.
We're so quiet.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Billy, and I am the founder and organizer of Bookstore Romance Day. And I wanted to welcome you to the first of 2025's Bookstore Romance Day virtual panels. This is For the Love of Romance, presented by Steamy Lit. So a huge thank you to Steamy Lit, who is a sponsor this year, for putting this panel together for us and for being a sponsor. I'd also like to thank all of our other sponsors, including Bramble Books, who are our primary sponsor this year. So a big round of applause and a huge thank you to them. If you have questions for any of the authors, please put them in the Q&A and we will get to them at the end. With all of that being said, I will also be dropping some links into the chat for you to purchase the author's books, either printed books or audiobooks. We have both options available for you. And I think that is everything that I have for you. I will chat with you a little bit more at the end. So now I'm going to turn it over to Naina to get us started. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much to Bookstore Romance Day and Steamy Lit for putting this panel together. So excited to get to talk with some of my favorite romance authors. And I think we're gonna have a fun discussion. But before we start off, I'm just gonna ask everyone to introduce themselves. So I think in my screen, I think Priscilla, you're up first. Do you wanna go ahead?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Priscilla Oliveras, USA Today bestselling author of Stories That Stir Your Heart. Thus far, I've written contemporary adult romance that always center Latina familia. But next up for me is a YA that I'm working on now, but also with Latina characters centering my culture. Thanks so much.
Thank you. BK, you wanna go next?
Hey everyone, good morning. My name is BK Borison. I am the author of the Love Light series, first time caller, and my first paranormal magical romance, Good Spirits, comes out this October.
Yay, I'm really excited for that. Susan?
Me too.
Susan, you wanna go? Yeah.
I don't know how to turn it on. Hi. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Susan Lee, and I am the author of Young Adult Romances Soulmates and the Romance Rivalry. And my adult romance debut comes out in October. It's called Julia's Song is Undateable.
Yay. Taj?
Hi, everyone. I'm Taj McCoy. I'm currently in New York just to visit for some events, but I am an adult Black love rom-com romance writer, and I'm very, very happy to be here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Jessica, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Jessica Joyce. I'm the author of You with a View, The X-Files, and so excited to be here today.
And Nikki.
Hey everyone, I'm Nikki Payne. I write steamy retellings of the books we were all forced to read in high school, including Pride and Protest and Sex, Lies, and Sensibility. And my latest novel of romantic suspense is a detective story called The Princess and the PI.
And everybody's kind of teased what books they have coming up next, but I'm going to go into more detail about them at the end because I want to make sure everybody knows what dates they're coming out and things like that. Really quickly, I'm Naina Kumar. I write contemporary romance. I have a book called Say You'll Be Mine and Flirting with Disaster. I'm like, what are my books called? I have 2 books out. So now we're going to just jump into discussion, and people feel free to jump in whenever you want. My first question is, sorry, my dog's getting very active. What is your first introduction to romance as a genre? And if you can remember, what was the first romance novel you read? Does anyone want to start us off? Or I'll start calling on people.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Or Nikki, if you want to go. I don't know. How do we do
no,
this?
please, Jessica. Oh, Jessica first.
Well, I feel like I've told this story a million times, so maybe it's boring. But my mom was a huge romance reader, is a huge romance reader. My grandma was a huge romance reader. My aunt, like, I remember being a kid, sort of sitting around the dinner table with them, and they would be exchanging romance books. So they had their sort of like own romance book club. So of course I like went down the pipeline of stealing my mom's romance books way too young. Who even knows what I was reading, but I'm trying to remember what the first romance book I read. I read a lot of YA. I I feel like it was probably like Sweet Valley High, to be honest with you. The most toxic relationships you could ever imagine. But yeah, I loved those. Babysitter's Club. I loved Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. There was a little bit of a romance in there. Yeah, books like that. But Sweet Valley High was probably like my first official entry after I was sneaking my mom's books.
I feel so lucky for people with like a book childhood. I feel like there's this people in the pocket who had like no YA. And so we just were zero to Stephen King and like there's no space in the middle. So no, I love that. I feel like I started romance honestly like playing Barbies. I had all of these crazy subplots, but it was always romance. It was always betrayal, romance. You know what I mean? It wasn't even soap opera. It was so deep. It was like it was telenovela. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a difference. It was very, very um dramatic, and I just loved telling stories in that format. And I think Johanna Lindsay, Miss Lindsay, she was one of the first romance novels that I picked up. Um, I just remember feeling a certain way. You know, I don't really remember what it was about, but it was such and that's what I love about the genre, that it does that. It creates that feeling in your belly. You're just like, this better not make me sexually weird, but you know, but alas, I did not escape, you know.
I'm like Nikki. I was not an early reader, especially not of romance. So, but I, in my 20s, had moved to a new city and I didn't know anyone. And I just started picking up books about girls in their 20s. And I started really through romance, through chick lit or women's fiction. That's kind of was my foray. But my real kind of intro to romance that really made me love the genre was the Chicago Star series by Susan Elizabeth Phillips. And also a book I don't even know, but I would probably call it one of my problematic faves, but it's called Sweet Dreams by Kristen Ashley. I read so much motorcycle romance, it's like it was unconscionable. And then also Black Dagger Brotherhood by J.R. Ward. Those are all my kind of intros that got me totally hooked into the genre.
I'm like Jessica in that I I read family members' books, but it was actually my dad. My papi is a huge romance reader. Like he's the one that watches K-dramas with me and we'll text about them. But so probably like you also, like I started out with Victoria Holt Gothic novels and then Sweet Valley High, all of that. But my first adult romance that I read, I was high school. We lived in Key West, hence my Keys to Love series, and we were stuck in a hurricane shelter for several days. And obviously, this was pre-cell phone, pre-Game Boy, pre-anything like that. And by day two, I'm like climbing the walls, totally bored, bugging my parents and my dad. Papi, as part of his hurricane supplies, he took a bag full of Harlequin Presents and Harlequin Romances. And he just handed his bag to me and was like, pick one, basically like get out of our hair kind of thing. And I don't remember the book, but I can remember the covers were so distinctive, right? Like Presents had that arch over it. So I remember it was a Harlequin romance that I picked up. And and I've just kind of like the bug bit me, and I dove into adult romance after that. The series that I can remember, like my sister and I used to love, we would buy and swap and um, uh, do Devereaux's like Montgomery series, right? So I remember visiting her, and A Knight in Shining Armor came out, and I stayed up the whole night to read it because I knew when she woke up in the morning, she had bought it. So she was going to want it, and she wasn't going to let me have it until she was done reading. So I just stayed up all night to read it so that in the morning she could have it. And now she's my main alpha reader. When I'm drafting, I send to her and she gives me feedback. So
I love that. I was a super big like summer reading program person. And so I would like check out the maximum every week. And so at age 10, I think I read my first adult romances. Definitely Victoria Holt was in the lineup. Didn't understand half of what was happening, but it was interesting. And so I was there for it. And my mom was a big Danielle Steele reader, and so I had all of those books. The second that I got a hold of Eric Jerome Dickey and others, I was just pouring through everything that I could. And so like it just became an obsession from there, 10 years old, but it was just meant to be.
Yeah, I was also a big summer program reader. I was always trying to get the stickers for the Pizza Hut pizza. Very motivated by pizza still to this day. And so I would read everything. And we would, especially before beach vacations, we would go to the library. I would get my books and we would take them to the beach. And I would often read them by like day 2 or 3. And once we were staying in my aunt's beach house, and I was being nosy, like most probably, I think I was 11 or 12. And I found her secret stash of Nora Roberts, Danielle Steele, Miss Beverly Jenkins. Um, and I distinctly remember like opening the door, and it was like floor to ceiling of these books. And it was just like the light came shining down upon me. And it was like the angel sang. And I was definitely reading those far too young, which is why it always cracks me up when we see this discourse about illustrated covers attracting too young audiences. I'm like, I was reading these books when I was too young. And I think there are worse things than young people fighting about intimacy and consent in healthy relationships. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, definitely read Romance Too Young. It nipped me hard and been here ever since.
I was also too young. I think I was like a big library person. So my mom used to take me to the library every week. And I jumped from like I read all the kids' books and then I just started reading adult romance. And I don't know, like there was nothing in between. And it was all historicals. So I think the first one I remember was Duchess in Love by Eloisa James, but there might have been some others. But it was like a ton of Eloisa James, and then I discovered other historicals, and yeah, never left, never left the genre after that. It's so good. But yeah, that brings us to like, what do we love about romance as a genre? Why have we stayed with it, for so long? What keeps us coming back to it?
I
think, sorry, go ahead, Priscilla.
um, I was gonna say the genre has changed a lot, right? Since when I first started reading eons ago. But at its core, like that happily ever after, that story of I guess the ones that I was drawn to, maybe why more romance, because they were sweeter than presents the strong alpha guy, right? But at its core, like a healthy romance, a healthy relationship, and I feel like today's genre, like the ones what we're writing are even more so like women have more agency, but it's all about the ones that are on my keeper shelf anyway, and the ones I try to write are healthy love relationships, like within the partners, but also like in those that are around them. So like life is going to throw a bunch of crap at you, but in our books you can you face that or with your characters, but you also have that promise along the way. So maybe it's like Kennedy Ryan has talked about, like it's a safer place because you know that it's guaranteed at the end that you're going to get that, right? And so for me, that's what's always drawn me from the beginning, the emotional aspect of it, and stepping into someone else's shoes, but also that comfort of knowing, that that love can conquer all, as corny as that might sound.
Right. I mean, to Priscilla's point, it's an incredibly hopeful genre. And it's like hopeful for women in particular. I think if you read widely, I feel like most authors and most folks like tend to read widely. You'll see that really outside of romance, the there's not a lot of like good things happening to the girlies. Do you know what I mean? In a lot of genres. Like I love a mystery series and I love a detective story. But oftentimes those start with a vulnerable body that moves this detective into action. And that vulnerable body oftentimes like belongs to women or a child. And that sense of like, this is what it means to like be a serious novel. I find romance to be a place where a woman's body is also safe and it's not a catalyst for a man's action or a man's good work. But you know, it is, but kind of in a good way. Do you know what I mean? Point of clarification.
In a consenting way.
It's also super empowering. I think this genre is one of the most empowering for marginalized people, especially women. And like in a world where I just feel like our power is constantly trying to be stripped away from us, reading stories about people that are fighting for love at the end of the day, I think is really wonderful to put out there. I think it is an important message. And as someone who writes young adult romance, I think it's especially important that we tell stories to young people that it's okay to have big feelings and it's okay to experience these kinds of things. And yeah, so I just think that it's an empowering genre. And when I look at your faces, of the faces of the panelists, some of my favorite people in the world and some of the most impressive people I know, it's like that even just as a writer makes me think, God, we are just, it's an incredible genre of people both behind the scenes and on the page.
Yeah, to speak to that too, the community, being a part of this community, not just as an author, but also as a reader, when you go to the conferences with readers, it's so joyful. And like just it feels good to be in a place that you're appreciated and everybody values what you value. And it just feels like a very warm, safe place where everything we hope for the larger community is sort of represented, and feels achievable when you're in these rooms celebrating romance. And I think for me, that's like a hit of hope that I need when everything else is falling apart. It always feels safe and comfortable to come back to this genre that shows a deep appreciation at a baseline for love and love stories.
Taj or Jessica, do you want to add anything, or I can move on to the next?
I feel like they covered everything that I would have
Yeah,
said.
I thought so too. But yeah, no, those are all reasons I love this genre so much. I'm curious with all of you, because I think we all started as romance readers. What was the moment you were like, I want to be a writer? I want to write romance. I've been reading these novels for so long, but I want to contribute to the genre. What was that moment like for you? Like, what made you want to write that first romance novel?
I'll start. um, I I mean, I always sort of wrote little stories, but I think sort of going into the romance arena was after I read Twilight, I was like obsessed with the series, and I didn't know what fan fiction was prior to reading that series, but I was just like so pulled into the story that I decided I wanted to just like continue the story in my own way, especially because I loved Rosalie and Emmett. I was very into their sort of dynamic, and obviously the books aren't about them; they're about Edward and Bella. And so I kind of like dove into the deep end because not only did I want to write something, I like decided I wanted to share it with strangers on the internet, which is like into the frying pan. But it gave me such a like a low pressure sort of entry into sharing my work with people. Like, you know, you would post a chapter a week, a chapter every few days, whatever, and people would, you know, leave comments on fanfiction.net, and it was so just like, I mean, a lot like I think the romance community. It was just so joyful. And I think like I really caught the bug that way because not only was I writing romance, but like people were appreciating it. So that was sort of my origin story fan fiction, which I think is probably the story for a lot of people, a lot of authors.
For me, I was published a few times in elementary school, so I always knew I was a writer. And when I got to college, it was early 2000s, so chick lit was everywhere, and I just was really attached to it. And I attempted my first novels when I was in law school. I couldn't finish any of them, but I had all of my classmates reading, which was great. And so it just kind of made me feel like I was on the right path. For me, you know, I'm sure that a lot of people go through this, but like when I was choosing a major and things like that, I wanted to major in English and follow my path to writing and do creative writing. But my family was like, no, you can choose business or science or law. And so I did what my family wanted me to do, went to law school and started my career, but I never let go of writing. And so I just kept pursuing it until it was a thing.
I was an English major with education, wanted to teach, but I was also I got married really young. We were both still in college, and then the military moved us right after he graduated. So I had to take a semester off of college because they moved us across the country, and I missed like the registration deadline or whatever, like the application deadline. So I was in a new state, didn't know anybody, and I had other than like my spouse, and I had a 4-month old, and I had this semester. And parenting is a big job, yes, I will say that, but I needed to be doing something like for myself, and I had read all these books, and I had written short stories, and teachers had encouraged, and I said, I'm just going to write a book this semester. Like, how hard could that be? Like, yeah, like tires squealing to stop, right? And that book sucked for a bazillion reasons. And I still have like the manuscript pages. I don't know how countless moves I still have them, but they're in my apartment right now here in Brooklyn. But I finished that semester, and and then I went back to school like in January. So I stopped for a while, but like that bug, I like that finishing that first manuscript. That's bad for a bunch of reasons, but it's the best thing about it was that it showed me that I could do it. And then, so then I just continued writing like around school and around more kids and all that kind of stuff until it was a while. I finished that first book, and it was 26 years later before I signed with my first contract. So anybody out there who is been writing for a while and it hasn't happened, or whatever, keep at it, keep doing it. Like, don't stop. Or if you think it's too late, it's not ever too late. If you have a book in your head and you've been thinking about writing it, sit down and get started.
I'm just going to add mine because it's so ridiculous, but I never thought I would be a writer. I actually did write fic. wrote on livejournal.net. That's how long ago I was writing, but I was very happily a reader. I was, back in the day, it was called being a blogger, not like a bookstagrammer or a booktalker, but I was a blogger. And I had no intention or need or desire to be writing a book until a man told me I couldn't. And it was a male author who said that I wouldn't understand what it meant or felt like to be a writer. And literally, you do not tell me that I cannot do something. So yeah, so I wrote my first book, which was Soulmates, my book that was my debut. So yeah, pettiness is the best driver and best motivator, I think.
What was the name of the man? Who is this man, Susan?
I wasn't going to ask his name, but I was like,
I'll
I
tell
hope
you-
you
I'll
either
tell
have
you
his picture
offline.
or you
I'll
have
tell
like
you
his
later.
name
I
written
will tell you
somewhere. Like,
offline because I think some of us will know who this person is.
Oh, now we have to know.
Yeah, we're gonna start a cancel campaign right now.
Yeah.
It's not Stephen King. No, just kidding.
I think he's already canceled anyway.
It's that little known guy, George R. Martin. No, just kidding. But it really is a man who we would mostly all know.
wow. That's really ugly.
Everyone has like really wholesome stories. I have what my doctor calls a maladaptive daydreaming. Um, and I had to do something about that. So, no, it wasn't a doctor, but it was a person that I loved. And they're just like, what are you staring off into the distance doing? And I'm like, oh, there's a story and I have to get back to it. I can't listen to your conversation because I have to get back to these people. In my head, they're very important to me. I'm sorry. And then I started to write them down. Honestly, since I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, there have always been people not related to me in my brain, and I'm just desperate for their business, like all the
Can I
time.
just say, if you've ever spent any time with Nikki, just like casually, this just makes so much sense because she will start talking about an idea and literally just extrapolate this whole story that is just banana pants. And I'm just like, all of that fits in your head right now in this moment. It is
Yeah.
bananas.
She has the most beautiful brain
Yes.
I've ever
Yes.
experienced
Agreed.
in my
Oh,
life.
My psychiatrist thanks you. Okay. All of the people around me, thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate that. But but it has been a way for me to kind of manage what it sometimes feels like an unruly thought process or unruly like way of thinking, you know?
Yeah, I think I really relate to that because I was big, still am big daydreamer, like where I would just like when I would consume a piece of content, whether it be a book or film or music, I'd be like, but what about the love story? Like where I want more of that love story. And then it would just, that led me down a path to fan fiction, like so many people, and writing my own love stories in 4,000 different ways, the same people falling in love in different ways. And then like Priscilla, when I had my first child, postpartum kicked me so hard right in the teeth. And I could feel myself slipping away a little bit into motherhood. I think sometimes when you have children, we don't talk a lot about what happens after to the mothers. And so I felt really isolated and alone in that. And I started writing again original work to sort of yank myself out of that, and have something that felt specifically mine and for me instead of in service of my children or my husband or whoever else in the world. It was something that belonged just to me. And so that's why I started writing again.
Yeah, I love how different everybody's stories are, but like also so similar. I think Nikki, until you talked about daydreaming, I didn't realize like I remember being in high school and writing stories in my head and just tuning out class. And someone asked a question. I was like, oh, this person's paying attention to the class. Like it was so funny. Like I thought this is what everybody was doing. Like we were all just making up stuff in our heads. But yeah, I think the pandemic really forced me to like, I always said I wanted to do this, but I had time and forced me to do it. But I'm so glad all of you decided to write because it gave me books that I got to enjoy. So I'm selfishly very happy about it. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges with writing romance? I think there's a lot. I'm curious to see what you guys think.
It's like, how much time do you have? I'm like trying to narrow it down to top 10.
I think inherently the challenge is that every reader who picks up your book knows how it's going to end. And so how do you build tension and obstacles that feel natural and believable? And how do you make these two people fall in love in the duration of a book, which is the whole essence, of the romance genre? But for me, I always struggle with the first bit of drafting, of figuring out who the characters are. I'm not a big plotter. It's not a big plotter. And so when I start a book, I just sort of like have to work through it in terms of like, who are they, like letting them define themselves as I sort of write out the page, which results in like the first 30% of a draft for me takes a lifetime because I don't know who the characters are yet. I don't know how they interact with one another. I have like a vibe and a vision for how I see them coming together, but getting to the point where they start snapping at each other, like where it feels like, oh, I know who you are. I know who you are. I know how you're going to be together, is a process and a journey. So for me, when I'm writing a love story, that is what I struggle with the most.
I hope it's okay that I say this. I think one of the hardest things is publishing. I think this industry makes it really hard to write romance because, we said inherently this is a genre about joy. We notoriously have not been taken seriously from the industry as a whole. It's really hard to write joy when the work of writing is sometimes, met with opposition at every turn. It's really hard to write about joy when the world is falling apart. And so it's like we're I don't mean to like talk in these grandiose terms, but we're in a fight. We're in a battle every day when we want to write this genre, I feel like. And it's like we either have to get lost, like we have to go somewhere and lose ourselves to find this in these stories, or we have to kind of like gear ourselves up. Every time I sit down to write, I have to like mentally, like I'm in a fight, like to do it and to grind these words out. And I think if we didn't believe so much in the genre, the message of the genre, the hope of the genre, this could be very, it could be really difficult to do. I mean, it is difficult to do, and that's why it's so wonderful to have a community to surround us with it. And I think the other thing too is I'm just naturally a cynic. So sometimes I want to write these like really grandiose, like grand gestures and lines of romance. And in my head, I think you would totally roll your eyes at this in real life. It's like sometimes I'm battling my own inner romantic. And so that's my personal struggle because I love reading those things in books, but when I'm writing them, I just don't take myself as seriously. So yeah, that's my personal struggle because I just have a black heart. So
I'd say I kind of similar, like I'll say like a personal struggle for me is imposter syndrome, right? So I have on my desk, like my parents framed like my first 4 book covers here. And so I have little reminders of like, see, you've done it, so you can do it again, right? So starting a book, BK, I am a plotter. And mainly it is because it helps me to silence those imposter syndrome doubts of like, see, you got a plan, you think you kind of know who these people are because you've written all these GMC charts, and so like get started. But so for me, starting a book is a hard part of like the writing process because of those doubts. And then the next harder part really for me is the end, because typically I dragged my feet to start, so I have a deadline that's now looming, and now I know these characters and I love these characters and I have the movie of them in my head, and I have then the stress is getting what's in here and in here on the page so that in time for my deadline, but in a way so that then when it goes out in the world, I want readers to love them as much as near the end I feel like this huge sense of responsibility that I have to tell the story right because I love these characters, and it's up to me whether or not other people are going to fall in love with them. So like the beginning and the end of writing the novel for me is hard. In general, publishing, um, we've made a lot of gains when it comes to like diverse romance and authors, and but in recent years we've also regressed a lot. And so I think in to be frank, like that is also a part of the publishing world that is difficult, the disparities that diverse authors face when it comes to the business side of publishing. And that's a whole nother topic, so I'm going to leave it there.
Well, we're not going to leave it completely alone. So what we're going to do In all honesty, I mean, I think personally, as a writer, I'm an ADHD anxiety girly. Hey, y'all. And so for me, like staring at a blank screen is my kryptonite. I will be completely paralyzed by it. And so for me, I had to stop looking at a screen completely. And so I started dictating my books. My last two have been dictated because I couldn't look at a blank screen anymore. And I wasn't meeting deadlines. And so I had to find a new way. And so that was one thing. But, when we talk about publishing and we talk about barriers and it seemed like we were making a lot of progress, and then the last couple of years it's definitely seemed like a massive regression. I think that word believable in a different context than BK used it, sometimes we get these moments where we write things based on circumstances either we've faced or we've witnessed with characters who are at the intersection of several different identities. And then we get the feedback that those people are not believable, and yet we exist. And so it can be really, really hard to push back with publishing because we're fighting and trying to have advocates that can fight for us to say, like, these things actually are believable. You just have to open your mind a little bit more. And so the hard part is a lot of times in publishing, the teams are not as representative of, culture across the board the way that authors are. And so trying to get publishing to actually have representation within their own teams so that they can understand the stories that are being told is one of the obstacles that we're currently facing. And it's a big part of the reason why I decided to also become a literary agent. You have to have people who have seen some of these things behind the scenes, who know how to kind of advocate on behalf of their clients, because the other thing that you don't want marginalized authors to have to do is pick up the fight always themselves, because then they'll be seen as the problem. And so that becomes another issue that we end up having to fight. And so there's a lot of discord and there's a lot of work to be done. But my hope is that we'll be able to make some lasting progress that stops reverting back.
I love that dictation trick because I have dysgraphia. It's hard for me to like write really well. And if anyone has ever texted with me, I cannot spell. It's a problem. Like I just can't spell. And so that dictation thing, I may actually use that. If the problem with me in dictation is that I am from Texas and Siri is from some neutral place in the Midwest. And they're just like, sis, what are you saying? Like every time Siri is like, honey, what are you talking about, my good sis? So that also kind of, when we think about personally, an issue for me is sometimes how long it takes me to comb over my drafts to fix mistakes and to write and write and write until it's correct. So that's the thing that I struggle with. And I would say globally also is there's that kind of double anxiety of you've produced something that feels real to you, that feels good to you, and feels authentic to you, and like you're not in charge of how people perceive your work. And it's like kind of terrifying when someone like reads Pride and Protest and they're just like, this book is racist. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? That's not what I did there, or like you're just not in charge of how people perceive your work. And it's like you want to run around and just like take the book and read over people's shoulder and say, this means this and that means that, but you can't. And there's that loss of control aspect that just gives me the willies with your own kind of material, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably one of the hardest things for me. I'm like I always called myself a type B, but that's not true. I love control. And yeah, like not like being perceived at all, first of all, is terrifying, but like not being able to explain yourself when people take away a specific message from your work can be really difficult. Even though like that's kind of the point of it all, right? That's the point of art, is that everybody like has a different takeaway. They get a different message than the next person. But it is very difficult for me, I think, to be like, all right, I'm just gonna walk away. Like I can't explain myself. That's not sort of what we do. That's not part of the job. But I always want to like endear myself to people somehow. Like, no, that's not what I meant. I meant this instead. But you just can't do that. And I think that's a difficult lesson too, that it does sort of go beyond your control and you just have to let it be.
Yeah. I'm seeing a growing number of Q&As popping up. So we're going to switch over to that pretty soon. I'm going to leave one last question for everybody, which is, what do you have coming out next? Or what would you like to tell us about that? If you don't want to answer that or you don't want to talk about that, what's a romance novel that's coming out that you're excited about?
I'll start because I saw someone mention Sandra Brown, and I'm very much in my Sandra Brown bag right now, minus all of the cop love. But yeah, I'm September 16th. I am coming out with a romantic suspense, a genre that I really, really cut my teeth in, that I absolutely love. Detective novel. It's kind of Kimmy Schmidt meets Alex Cross, and I hope you guys love it. Oh, it's Princess and the PI. That's the title. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
I'll go next, but I think my next release is probably the last on the list. But because I'm working on, I recently signed a contract for a YA romance, so it's not going to come out until spring of 27. I'm hoping I got the rights back to Resort to Love, a book I wrote a while ago, and so I'm going to revise and add some scenes that were not included, and so maybe I'll have that out next year. But right now, the book I'm writing is called Tres Leches at Sunset. It's YA romance, going to take place in a small beachside town in Florida, because that's where I grew up. And young girl, singer-songwriter, dealing with anxiety. She's the only child of a single mom who gets deployed in the military, and so she has to go stay with her godmother, who happens to have a son who's same age, and they share an adjoining bathroom. So that's kind of like the setup. So Tres Leches at Sunset, and the godmother owns a food truck, hence the Tres Leches. So a Puerto Rican food truck. So that's all what that's all in my head right now.
I can go. I have a couple of things happening this fall. My next novel comes out on September 2nd. It is called The Dating Prohibition, and I'm putting my book tour together, so you guys will be seeing some dates very soon. I'm going all around the place. And also this fall, my first novel, Savvy Sheldon Feels Good as Hell, has been adapted for film. It's a made-for-TV movie, and it's coming out. I actually don't know the date yet, so I promise I'll post as soon as I know. But Amber Riley is starring in it as Savvy, and I'm really over the moon that I got to meet her on set. And so it's been a whirlwind. People remind me all the time that it's happening, and I forget because it's an adaptation, so I don't really have any say in anything. But it's a cool thing that's happening, yeah, this fall.
That's so cool. All right, I've got this. So this is my adult debut. It's called Julia's Song is Undateable. It is about a K-beauty CEO who is great at business, but terrible at love. And she finally agrees to let her family set her up on 3 dates, but she realizes she's going to fail at them. So she asks her childhood next door neighbor for some dating advice. He is unemployed, living in his parents' basement, and on paper, a terrible match for her. But they come to find that the best love is someone who accepts you as you are. I love it. It's super zany. It is Lissa in the comments. Thank you. I can't type with my thumbs, but she said something very nice about it and made me feel very, very good. It is crazy writing an adult romance. This is all I read. I write YA. I don't read YA. I read adult romance. And so this was not something, I mean, I'd hesitated to do this for a really long time. So yeah, I'm excited, and I'm very excited about that. I'm also on a back-to-back deadline for my next adult and my next YA book. And at this point, the way that it's going, I probably won't ever write another book. I won't have another book coming out ever. So, so enjoy this one because it's the last. But October 28th, Julia's song is undateable.
I am the week before October 28th and October 21st. I have my first foray into magic and paranormal with good spirits. It's the story of the ghost of Christmas past comes to haunt a woman, and she's really nice and pleasant and sweet, and he has no idea why he's there. It is not a retelling of A Christmas Carol. I stole the character from Dickens and I made him a horny Irishman who's lusting after an antique shop owner. So not a retelling. I just stole material. But I really love this story. It was really fun for me to do something different. It's the start of a new series, which will all be magic and paranormal. So, and I've been going back and forth between this series and my heartstring series. So I do contemporary and then magic, and it's been so good for my brain to have a break between the two of them. And then in February, I have this book too in the heartstring series, and now back to you about everybody's favorite neurotic weatherman. So very busy these next couple of months, but all good things.
Yay. So I hope everybody, I think there's links to a lot of these upcoming books in the chat or maybe in the invitation for the panel. So make sure to check that. My next book's not coming out for a while, but next spring, it'll be my next contemporary romance, which is called Just a Highland Fling. And it is a road trip through the Highlands with a hot Basie bagpiper. So that'll be fun.
Can I say one more thing? I totally forgot because I just got the okay yesterday, but I did a partnership with Downy, like fabric softener. They came up with this ad campaign, and so they reached out. I wrote a short story featuring Downy fabric softener, and it just went live on Spotify. So like I don't know if I can show like that. So that's the cover. It's called Kitchen Heat. Another food truck story because that was their idea. But so if you're a Spotify listener, you can go on to it's like scandalously soft stories. There are three other ones. One's like a kind of like a detective vibe. The other two are paranormal, and then mine is contemporary. It takes place in Miami. So that's live now, but it's only on Spotify.
I just want to throw out one more thing because I think I'm going to do it for Nikki, but there is also a Kickstarter campaign for a bunch of short stories, dystopian short stories called After the End. And Nikki Payne has one in there that looks so good. I cannot wait. I don't know if you want to say something about it, Nikki.
Oh, no, thank you for that. I'm forgetting everything. I also wrote an anthology for Jane Austen's 250th birthday with Sarah McLean and all of our favorite historical baddies.
Oh my God!
We take these small characters from Jane Austen and remake them. And so I wrote like Caroline Bingley as just a free woman of color going out west. She's so mean, but so tea. Do you know what I mean? We love her. We love her.
Can't wait.
A lot of fun things.
I forgot to answer. Well, I didn't forget, but I was like maladaptive daydreaming, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know. But I mean, my news is not as exciting. I am writing my third book. I don't have a pub date, but I'm a lot like Bex. I'm not a plotter, and so the first act always takes a million years. We are through the first act, so now I kind of like have an idea of who they are, and really excited for it to come out someday, hopefully.
I am also very excited.
Well, you're going to have to read it first, so.
Okay, so I think we're going to turn over to Q&A. I think I'll start pulling questions from there because we've got a lot in there. Okay, this is from Mel. Do you feel drawn to push the boundaries of the romance genre and explore innovative ideas, or do you prefer the comfort and reliability of classic, well-loved tropes? How do you approach this in your work?
Okay, let me answer this first because I love subverting a trope, right? So I love like only one bed, but for example, in Pride and Protest, it was like only one nap pod. Do you know what I mean? So like Or like there's a thing that you love and then you find a way to play with it, to toy with it, to make it your own. So I love the tropes. I think they're tropes for a reason. They live in our brains. They're in the architecture for a reason. But toying with those, surprising people with those, that's still creative work.
And I think I definitely have ideas that I think are different, but I also just feel like there's a lot of work and catching up to do for Korean love stories and Korean American love stories that are, your basic contemporary stories. And this is a me issue. It's not a world issue, but like I also feel like I'm racing against other people who want to write Korean stories. Like I think with the popularity of K-pop and K-dramas and K-pop demon hunters and like everyone now wants to write Korean stories, and I'm just like, wait, I haven't had the chance yet to like write all the Korean stories. So I feel a little bit of pressure in that way too. So I have a long list of ideas of things, but I do just I want to see, like Susan Elizabeth Phillips type stories out there with Korean characters. And so yeah, so that's kind of where I'm prioritizing for myself.
I think I don't think about tropes like I don't say, oh, I want to write a second chance romance, and that's not my starting point. Normally, it's like a person comes to me, right, or I read about something, or I've heard about like the Queens of Mariachi, Sabrina Soul, and that Travis Macias sent me a clip of um, a news article like on her in out in California, and she said, her text was like, "Hey, Pris, I saw this and I thought of you." And so by the time I got to it was like 2 minutes and 40 seconds or whatever. By the time I finished, it was like, oh my gosh, I know some sisters like this that are in it, right? So I always start from the people, and then as I talk to them and I get to know them a little bit better, and I figure out their situations or like what their issues are, then I try to think about, okay, what kind of partner or what kind of love interest would challenge but also help, and so then like the trope comes out of that. So I try to, I guess for me, it's more like organic. And if there is a trope, then I don't think about, can I subvert it, or I want to use this trope. I just try to like think about the people, and what are their situations, and what is their, what can I, how can I challenge them to, like to get to help them on their character arc, that kind of stuff. So I just try to really listen to the characters and then go from there. I don't know if that's helpful or not. Nikki, did you see they asked what's the title of your anthology? Can you put that in the chat?
Oh,
Can you say it
absolutely.
again or something like that?
It's Ladies in Waiting, and it's me and all of your historical favorites, literally just having a great time with Jane Austen characters.
Yeah, and the link is in there too. So whoever asked that question, like you can grab the link there.
I'll go ahead and ask a different question. This is from Azanta. Are there any dream retellings or stories you'd love to write or adapt?
Nikki knows this, but I'm working on one now. It is in the Austen verse. It is a retelling of Emma. And so fingers crossed it comes to light. We're pitching it currently, and so we'll see what happens. But it's something I've been working on now for over a year, so we'll see what happens.
I've been having a lot of adolescent joy. My heartstring series is revisiting Nora Ephron stories and giving them sort of like a modern twist. First Time Caller was Sleepless in Seattle. And Now Back to You is When Harry Met Sally. And the third one in the series, I intentionally saved for last, is You've Got Mail, which is the most, when you tell people that, they have a very like gut reaction to it because it's such an iconic film. So I'm starting that soon. And I'm really excited about it because I've been sort of like, I've been keeping it for myself as like the little carrot dangled at the end of my string. But there's a lot of pressure that come when you tell people you're doing Nora Ephron inspired work. There's a certain baseline that people expect. So I'm excited for it. It's been a treat for myself to revisit and like simmer in that world. But definitely feeling some intimidation as we go into You've Got Mail time.
I would love to retell. This is a folk tale. It's kind of a deep cut, but do you guys remember Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters? About this man, and he had these two daughters, and they're on this path to go meet this prince, and one is like the evil daughter, and one is the good daughter. Like a duology for these two sisters as they go to meet the prince, and one really messes up, and the one like really I would love a folktale, and just retelling that folktale would just eat for me. All right, Taj, I love being bullied. Yes, I will do it. I will do it.
Anyone else want to chime in? No, okay. Connor asked a question. She said, as romance tastemakers, what is your favorite romance read right now? Or what upcoming release are you most desperate to get your hands on?
I've been Farrah Rashan's Pugs and Kisses recently came out and it hit the list. That's a super cute series. So if you haven't tried that one, books 1 and 2 are out, and so I just recently re-listened to book 1, like again just for fun. But so that's a good series that I would recommend. And I have to say I haven't read yet, but I cannot wait. Julia Song is an upcoming release that is going to be like a treat read for me. Like I'm not going to let myself read it until I've like hit this word count, right? And then I will be able to uh, um, to be able to sit down and curl up with Susan's book.
I will say Regina Black's August Lane is chef's kiss. If you have been obsessed with Cowboy Carter, this is something that you need to read immediately.
Yeah, that was going to be my answer too. I just listened to the audiobook. I was down in San Diego and like road tripped back up to the Bay Area, and I was like, I forgot I was driving, which is not the greatest result, but it's like I mean, Regina Black's writing, first of all, is, I think she's like, if not the best, but one of the best in the game. She's so brilliant. And like the audiobook, it's a cast of narrators. And so every like it just like I left that experience being like, what do you mean they're not real? Like it just felt, her stories always feel so lived in. And yeah, she's amazing. Her brain is insane.
Okay, audiobooks, because I just finished one and I can't stop thinking about it. These Summer Storms by Sarah McLean.
Yeah.
The audiobook is just, I mean, Sarah McLean book
So
is gonna
good.
hit. It's also she's out of historical writing, a contemporary that's kind of like a family mystery type with a really great romance subplot. And but the audiobook is Julia Whalen, and it is just, I mean, how can it not be? It's a perfect combination, those two. And then just for your radars, there's a book called Female Fantasy by Iman Harurikia. It is about a woman who's in love with a merman. It's like so over the top and so fun, and it's really wonderful. I think it comes out in a few weeks, actually. And then I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Princess and the PI. It is so good. I feel like Nikki Payne can write anything. Nikki, get on it. I'm talking about you. Get out of your head of your next story.
Okay.
Stop teaching me about your next story. I'm talking about this one.
Okay.
But Nikki did something really special. I just think it's so great when authors kind of stretch into new boundaries. I love romantic suspense, but it is still a Nikki Payne book. So you've got to get it. It comes out in September. So yeah, I loved that one too.
Susan, how dare you?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off guard.
Now I'm mad because Nikki, we had lunch and I said I would love to read The Princess and the PI. And what has not showed up in my
I am trying to get everyone a second like I need a second pass because that first pass is wild. Like
I
it's
know it
like
is.
everything's misspelled. Like I can't. I want you to like me, right? So I want to give you a second pass. Susan knows all of my warts.
I want
Susan,
it. I'm so excited for that book. And another book arc I read recently that just blew me away was Eleanor Clover's Heartbreak Hotel.
Heartbreak Hotel.
It comes out in September. It's her first adult, I think.
Yeah, she's a YA writer. Well, was a YA
yeah.
writer. Yeah. Her
Yeah,
YAs
and
are also extraordinary.
Yeah, they
she
are.
writes so lyrically. And I started reading it just like on a whim because her editor sent it to me, and I was like, I'll just see. And I ate the whole thing up, gobbled it right up. And the last line of that book is such a gut punch, and I just like sobbed for 45 minutes. So you should also sob too and read it. It was very good.
The only reason I didn't mention that book because I knew that you were going to. You know, we
Yeah,
both
it's just
are
like
obsessed with that book. It's so good.
I put another rec in the chat, but a YA just came out, and since someone asked about retellings, like it's a retelling, or I like to say reimagining of Romeo and Juliet. It's called Rosa by Another Name by Haley Alcaraz. Rosa is not the Juliet but there is so it's really good. It's a Latina heroine who's white passing. It's just so it deals with a lot of important issues. It was I blurbed it before, but I just it blew me away. I loved it. So it's called Rosa by Another Name.
there's a book that's already out, but I'm like saving my body for it. Flirting with Disaster. Mostly because here's the thing about me. I'm a Houston girl. If you don't know this, I'm an HEB enthusiast. Okay.
You're gonna love this book.
And I love a like marriage in trouble, or even like a um I think she's like going back to get a divorce or something, and she's like has to like hang deep, and a hurricane happens. So it's like, let me tell you something about Houston. It's gonna rain, okay? It's gonna rain. You're gonna be trapped in your house, and I just feel like this is just the most Houston story that comes out. Like not a lot of stories come out like about and in Houston. I'm very excited for and saving my body and my time to just get cozy with Flirting with Disaster.
Thank you, Nikki. That's so
I love
sweet.
how this is gonna be a physical read. It's like a physical read for Nikki. She's like,
Let
I'm
me tell you,
saving my body for it.
She's
No,
gonna.
This is so random. Before we go on, can you all just smile? I'm gonna take a screenshot. Oh, one more. Oh, so I'm such an old lady. I pressed the volume button. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Also, I do know we are past 10, or at least 10 my time. So if people need to hop off, I totally get it. We do have like a ton of Q&A questions, but we don't have to go through all of them. So maybe we'll just do a couple more if people are good with that.
Yeah, I have to hop off in like 10 minutes if that's okay with everyone.
Okay. Yeah, we can
Yeah,
do like
I hear my baby squawking downstairs. So
yeah, we'll do like 5-10 more minutes. I've been in really like an angsty read mood lately. So I've been reading like Sherry Thomas's backlist and nothing but Sherry Thomas's backlist for like the last 2 months. But Heather McBreen has a book coming out in January called Sunk in Love that really captured a lot of the angst that I wanted. It's a marriage in trouble. It's like a married couple. They pretend to still be together because they're going on a family vacation. So it's got like these happy place vibes. It was really, really good. So that comes out in January if anyone's interested. So we got a question from Kelsey R. She said, what's something, a phrase, a scene, a trope that always makes you squeal / kick your feet when you read it in a romance book? And which of your books have you put it in?
I'm so sorry for answering first on these, but I just I'm you guys, are we all family here? Are we all just adults here, 18 and up? Because the moment when she sees it and it's like, is it gonna go? Like I can't I have to write it. I'm so sorry. It's in every book. I can't I must write it. And then when I read it, I'm just like, I understand. Like I don't know. I don't know. It gets me every time. Every time.
I love how we're all having a moment of silence for that answer. No one else needs to answer, frankly, for Nikki answered for us all.
Okay, I'm gonna find another question. Sorry, I'm just going through them. Let's see. There's another question about what's your favorite trope to write. Does anyone want to jump in on that one, or?
I'll say what trope I won't write.
Okay, yeah.
I cannot do a secret baby, right? Like, to me, I'm just like the motivation for why that person has kept that baby secret, like I probably just because as a mom, I'm like, I think of all the firsts that I would have missed that I'm never going to get back that you took away from me. So like, I'm never going to forgive you, right? So for me, I just cannot. I don't want to get inside someone's head like that, I guess, to write it, or I don't know. It just from right off the bat, I'm like, no, I'm not going to be able to forgive you, and I'm like, then I won't be able to write it believably. I don't think anyway. So, if anybody has a good secret baby book that they think can like help me turn that corner to be like, okay, I can see, feel free to recommend it. But there's a lot of tropes I like writing, but that's one that I'm just like, ugh, no.
Okay, Nikki, in advance, I know how you feel about this trope. However, brother's best friend, when it's done correctly, I will eat it up every time. And I will let you know it's in my next book. It's not like I don't like it. Here's why Nikki doesn't like it. When the brother is like, no, you can't date her, or you can't date him, whatever. But when it's not like when that's not the vibe, that I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I'll eat it up every time.
I love it too when it's done well, right?
Yeah.
But when it's in the gross way of whose pee is it, then we
Yeah,
got,
yeah.
you know,
Then we got problems.
then we got
I
problems.
completely agree. I completely agree.
But honestly, you could write someone just fighting in a paper bag, and you're like, this is it's cinema. Like, I promise, like you're fine, Jessica. Trust, okay.
I love you.
So ironically, my next book is also Brother's Best Friend. Brother has nothing to do with the rules here, but yeah, no, I agree. Like when it's done well, it's so juicy, and I definitely am already thinking of another one that I want to write.
What about father's best friend?
I mean, I could be into
Father's
that
best
too.
friend.
Okay, father,
I
young
love an
uncle,
age
whatever
gap.
we
Are
got
you
going
writing
on.
that? Is this a teaser?
I'm so
Come on,
down.
Susan.
I'm writing a book for Nikki called I'm in Love with a Clown. Nikki has a thing for clowns in the way that none of us anyone else does.
We're
Yeah,
gonna have to unpack that separately.
I'm gonna speak my truth, okay? And clowns can really get it. Like if you just really get it, just open your mind. Are you open-minded? Open your mind.
No.
Just she's like, no.
Is there a specific clown that like inspired this? Like,
Is
Yeah,
this like a
where did
Pennywise
this come
situation? Like,
from?
what are you doing?
No, you know who she's into? Oh, he's a
Who?
clown. Napoleon Dynamite. That's who.
He's not a clown.
okay, I was
Close enough.
Thinking
the wig.
red
Right.
nose.
You mean
Look,
like
just
a funny person?
Insane.
Nikki's thing is open your mind and turn off the lights.
It's Napoleon Dynamite can absolutely like please don't please no slander, no Napoleon Dynamite slander because there's a whole like genre of like big dick goofs that he fits into that can absolutely have it. Okay, we don't want to know Napoleon Dynamite slander on the TL, please.
I didn't even know that trope existed.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a whole discussion. Big dick goofs. There's a whole lot of people. Goofy is included in that, by the way.
Oh
We
my
don't want to.
God.
Let's not.
Dog, but that's fine.
This is opening my horizons have been broadened, Nikki, once
Ah.
again.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
I
like,
think this is I think the last question to close out the panel. If there's anyone else has a hear me out crush they want to throw out, this is it. We're gonna wrap up.
No one can top that.
Yeah, I
Truly.
think
oh my gosh.
okay. Well, thanks everyone so much for your time. It was so fun getting to chat with everybody. Stay tuned for a link that's going to be sent out with everybody's information on upcoming releases and things to pre-order. Have a fantastic Bookstore Romance Day. I hope you buy a romance book. And I'll see everybody later.
Bye.
Bye. Happy reading. Bye, everyone.
Bye.